So moving on to chapter 2, where he speaks on own mind. I guess referring back to our fully booked meets with Swift George, I asked him, was there any particular moment or thing, so to speak, that changed his mindset at the time? And he did mention it being the time that he got the 13 stretch. At the moment that they said the 13, that was the moment he knew, all right, cool, I've got to turn this shit around. Now, in reference to Chris in the book, he says that it was the MTC, and I'll explain what the MTC program is. And he mentioned, this is his own quote, I attribute 90% of the reprogramming of my mind to the MTC program. Now, an MTC program is a modified therapeutic community course or program. It focuses on offenders with mental illness and chemical abuse disorders. They adapt existing models of therapeutic community programs for substance users for the growing population of offenders who present co-occurring disorders, that is, individuals with one or more mental health disorders combined with one or more disorders pertaining to alcohol or substance abuse. Now, the key to the treatment of MICA patients in the MTCs is the community method of treatment and the use of peer self-help. And the reason why he was admitted onto this program was because at the time he was abusing alcohol and weed. He says, this is his own words. Yeah. So in regards to these kind of programs, do you think that they'll be useful in the UK? And I actually checked to see if they actually are in the UK, and they've got some kind of modified versions, but it's not quite as, I would say, intense or as focused as they are in the US.
I didn't really get into that program specifically. I don't want to say I just glazed over it as such.
So just to kind of give you a bit of background, because I've done a bit of research on it. It's essentially, and he does mention it, it's essentially where you have a buddy and you speak about your problems, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's alcohol abuse, and they put you in scenarios so you see it from a different perspective. So, like, all right, cool. I think he mentions it in the actual book where he mentions the story of, I think, one of the other prisoners playing a child and one of the other prisoners, or even himself, playing the parent. And the parent is suffering from drug abuse. And the child prisoner, well, the prisoner that played the child is saying, basically, oh, why can't you look after me? And just that whole role play gets you to see what's happening behind your actions. So if you're shotting food and you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're singing work to a mum that's got a 3-year-old child, and you're not seeing what's going on behind closed doors, you're just shotting at the food and kicking it. But behind those closed doors, that mum's getting high and the child's being left by themselves to defend for themselves. But you're not seeing that perspective. So this is what the program helps you to able to look at some of your actions and the repercussions your actions may do, and look at it from a different way of just living. So instead of, okay, I'm just making some bread, it's like, okay, I'm making bread, but at the sake of now making this young child starve because their parents fucked up. Well, excuse my language, but their parents is messed up, essentially. So this is just one of the modules, I guess, that this program brings to the table. So this is what I'm asking. Do you think such programs would be useful in the UK?
Yeah, what I was going to say is, sorry, Pete. Well, I remember now, because I remember the particular point that I think really hit home with Christopher Freeman was when the child said, when the adult playing the child said, like, I'm hungry, or I want some food or something like that. And obviously it spent, the drug abuser spent money on drugs. What I would say is, do you know, there's two things. First thing, Freeway Ricky Ross, or Freeway, whatever they used to call him, call him, Freeway Ricky, obviously spent some time in jail, big drug dealer, whatever. I've watched a lot of interviews with him since he's been released. Now, he's doing a lot of positive things, but like, one of the things he often says constantly in his interviews is, I didn't even realize at the time how much I was destroying my community. And I don't think he went through the program in jail, but he definitely, something clicked in jail all those years he spent. And one of the things is, one of his tasks or missions is to rebuild or help to rebuild a lot of the community he basically, that suffered because of the drug flow, his involvement in the drug flow that came through his community. The second thing is, I think if someone could really see, and I think for me, if I'm looking at it from my perspective, I would need to see the consequence. So I'd need that child growing up as an adult, or that child to come in, or that adult who's now rehabilitated, who was maybe someone who used to consume drugs for myself. I'd need them to come in and just really give me and tell me and demonstrate the impact of what me selling them drugs had, or what impact I had on that person's child. That would, for me, that would really resonate. That would really, really hit home and resonate. Don't know if the whole role play would, but if it's an actual person who's now really rehabilitated and told me that the impact of my actions, what it had on their family, and maybe what it had on their immediate family, wider friends and family, I think that would hit home a lot more. And I don't know if that would be the same for everyone else, but I definitely feel when you get a real life person, like a real life scenario, a person who's been through it and telling you that, or even someone, not even someone I've directly interacted with, someone that's actually been in a situation where they've been a drug abuser, and then they're coming onto the program saying exactly how it impacted them and their family, lost home, all the rest of it. I think that would have an impact, and especially if you're incarcerated, because it's going to hit home more. Someone's telling you that story out on the road, and you've got your Rollie and your Porsche, and you're just like, yeah, whatever, man, and you keep it moving. And you're going to these fancy clubs, you're kicking it with your people, you're not seeing the impact. You're just lining them up, dishing them out, and then you're keeping it moving. I think in jail, where you're somewhere incarcerated, where, you know, that's like on that particular day, that's the only interaction you're having that day apart from the rest of the prisoners, that's going to leave a lasting impact, in my opinion.
I was going to say, just like a rebuttal, sorry to cut you, Pete, just a quick one. But in regards to alright, cool. So going back to the role play, imagine you're that you, and you've grown up seeing your mum or your dad be like abusing drugs and whatnot.
Yeah. And
you've come through kind of having that hardship, and your only kind of way of making it in your environment, and obviously it's not going to be the greatest of environments, is to do what got your parents in that same situation, which we hear many people talk about. You hear a lot of rappers say, yeah, my mum was a crack fiend, my dad was a crack fiend, whatnot. I started selling drugs just to put some bread on the table. So it is easy to, not even to say criticize, but it is easy to almost stand from the outside in and say this would work and this wouldn't work. But there are people that actually live this experience and actually is that child that's in the role play, and they do grow up to almost follow in that pattern, unfortunately.
It's true, but I think even with my personal example, example for my personal life, should I say? So when I was like younger, my older brother and my parts, they always smoked. I remember like my older brother got quite ill, and they've attributed it to the fact that he smoked, and that just put me right off. It just put me right off. A, because obviously my older brother got ill, but also B, because I remember going back to the financial hardships. There's a lot of struggles in the house with money and stuff, but yet, and one of the things I always hear was, yeah, but you've always got money to smoke you know what I'm saying? And that just put me off straight away. I was like, that put me, so it can have the reverse effect sometimes as well, where it did with me. I was like, I'm not interested.
Yeah, true. Hey, what was you going to say?
Like just a couple of things really. I do believe therapy works, so I would be so for what I am gonna say, it'll be hypocritical of me to say that. Well, I just think it'll be hypocritical. I'm gonna kind of give like two different sides. So I believe therapy works. I don't doubt it in any way, shape, or form. But I do believe like there'll be percentages of people who will obviously buy into the therapy, and there'll be people who will just continue doing what they do. Really, they'll take the information in, but they'll find excuses for why they should continue selling drugs, for example, in this case. Yeah, so like for example, I know someone who is or was or what have you selling drugs, and I remember having this conversation with them, probably a very similar conversation as to what they're doing and why. And the excuses they were giving, well, like I sell to people who actually work in the city, so it's not a case of me just selling to people who are in my
Community.
yeah, in my community. Thank you. So yeah, that's a way they found of actually justifying doing what they do. And the one thing I do remember, not do remember, is I mean I've learned to understand is, I've said it already, people will be people, but like we all have needs. I'm not saying all the needs we have are the correct needs, but people will find a way to make excuses to do what they do for the reasons they do it. I just, I mean, and it said in the very beginning, I know we've had a conversation in recent time as to some of the strong stances I've had in regards to humans and people, and Mason's laughing, but like conversations like that. But like it said in the beginning, the world embodies empowerment. Some of the greatest men in the Bible were killers. Moses, Paul, and David. These are holy people. Society celebrates overpowering killing in sport, business, religion, and politics, and is evident in history. And it obviously went on to talk about Israel and Palestine. And there's no different on the ground level, where people are constantly competing with each other with absolutely anything. And as to like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and not to go into that itself, but some of the basic needs, and just needing food, water, shelter. If you've got no other means of actually making money, people will go back to selling that. I was going to say rock, but will go back to selling what they need to sell. It's just you've seen it. It's not like history repeats itself, unfortunately, at times.
Going back to the question though, in terms of whether the program would be useful. Personally, I do think it would be useful. I do. I think that, as P said, there's people that are going to either do what they're going to do and find reasons to keep on doing what they're doing. But I definitely think if you've got, for example, as I mentioned, in regards to having a buddy or accountability partner, I think that system definitely can help you look at the world in a different perspective. Because say you get put with someone that has been truly affected, like another prisoner, so to speak, that's been truly affected by some of the things that not you may have personally done, but someone that's in the same shoes or been booked for the same crime, and they can maybe give you more personable experience of it and what the effects are. I think those sort of things can help. And I think any kind, not to say any kind of help, but when we have these programs, that they need to be actually supported, not just on the inside, but on the outside of the jails and the prison. So it doesn't just stop at the prison, yard. Because what a lot of times happens is once someone gets let out, all that help that they was getting inside, all those programs tend to be dropped, and it's like, okay, cool, now it's time for you to fend for yourself. And what tends to happen is they revert back to whatever they may have been doing majority of the time, just due to not having the support network that they may have had during those particular programs. So that's why I think it would be a good idea to get those things started, but not just stop once they've left the jail or the prison. Because as I said initially, it's all systemic. So it's all part of the system. Like we just need to input certain modalities, certain programs, so it can shift the system into a more beneficial way of living, and a society that is actually not just putting people in jail for the sake of it, but really is rehabilitating, and really is, when people are coming out, they actually want to make a difference to their community that they're living in, whether they've been part of the destroying of it or downfall of it.
I just want to touch on, like, obviously I know we spoke with Swift George. Anyway, we spoke with Swift George. So like, just bring it back to him. So obviously he spent some time in jail, and we're talking about rehabilitation, we're talking about therapy. I 100% believe in therapy. And the reason why I say that is because, again, like anything, if you start building habits, they become a part of you. But like, I think he is a great example of someone who obviously was inside and has come out and now done well for himself. But some of the things that he said in our conversation were, yes, he went about trying to do qualifications. And I forget, he might have said a qualification in A-level in business. He might have said something along those lines. All right, and I don't know if he. I'm, sorry.
Economics.
Sorry, economics. So I'm not too sure if he completed that qualification, but the one thing he did say was like he knew he was not going to be able to find a job when he came out. And that's what a number of people inside jail know, and forget even know, they believe, because believe is a very, very strong word, because it assumes 100% you're not going to get a job. But like we don't need a mathematician to do these sums. We know that there's these people inside jail are not going to get jobs by and large with some of the with some of the crimes they've done, or in some cases they don't even have to have done crazy crimes, but with their let's say their reputation, they're not going to come out and get jobs. So they unfortunately they have to fall back on fending for themselves. So yeah, I do believe in therapy, but like in regards to Swift George and like using his story, yeah, therapy is fantastic, but it only works to a certain point. And the one thing that I did want to touch on in regards to him, I think it was one of the first things I was thinking about, was he made a conscious decision to isolate himself. So like things obviously inside the jail, like jail is manic, or it can be. He mentioned one or two jails that I'm quite familiar with in regards to their reputation. But he made decisions that he was going to isolate himself and actually rehabilitate himself by way of reading and just planning and thinking. You know, like to be able to, I don't want to go on a tangent, but to be able to change the entire psyche of a prison, particularly one where there's actually a reputation, the amount of work that's got to go into that is twofold, if not more than that. And I find it very, very difficult to believe that that work will be done and will be completed where you've got a turnover of individuals, prisoners who are being fully rehabilitated back into society. So that's me done.
Moving on to smartest versus fastest. Life is a game of the mind. The more you're able to be with your mind, the more you're able to achieve success in life. The body has its limitations, just like the world we live in, but the mind can be unlimited, very similar to our infinite universe. The mind always controls the body, not the other way around, and that's on page 24. So one of the worst myths slavery falsely projected about blacks was that we were incredible physical specimens, but inferior mentally. Keeping that in mind, are we still seeing the results of that indoctrination, and is the tide changing?
Sorry, Mason, are you going to go first? Or?
I'm thinking. French asked some good questions, man. I'm thinking at the moment, P. If you can roll off.
Are we seeing the results of that? Yeah, I still think we're seeing the results of that. I mean, I don't want to talk about football, but I mean, like in recent time in regards to football, I mean, you still find those comparisons still being made. Whether it's, I don't like using black and white, but like we're talking about race. So like, black people are by and large known for being strong, quick, and fast. Can probably play. Yeah. There's not like, I don't want to say this is still the case now, but it's definitely still a notion that's still there. There are not too many individuals of our race where people believe they can play centre midfield. Generally believe they can play anywhere barring centre half, goalkeeper, and centre mid, centre half, and goalkeeper. They can play anywhere else, but we can't play those intelligent positions where you actually need to use your mind to maybe dictate play. There are other examples where we see that as well, if I'm honest. So yeah, I think we are still seeing a result of slavery. And again, those things won't change in my lifetime, I don't believe, no. But I'm quite comfortable with that. I think there's something he says that I don't control what other people think, and I'm quite comfortable with that. Yeah, and that's in regards to racism. He says, yeah, it came clear to me I can't control other people. I don't control other people. I'm not fussed. As long as I can control my mind and what I think, and ultimately what I do, I'm cool. I can't stress myself and put strain on my mind and my body as to the actions and thoughts of others. That's not what I can control.
That question you asked, French, that question you asked, I think it was brilliantly summarized in the film Get Out.
Exactly what I was thinking still.
Yeah, it was brilliantly summarized in the film Get Out, and I'm sure most people have seen it. I'm not going to go into depths of it, but I'll give just a quick synopsis whereby essentially there's a community of white people who they basically, what they do is they remove the brain of a black person, but everything else physically, the specimen, the body, they love and they keep it. So they're essentially keeping themselves alive, and keeping themselves fit and physically able, but they're doing this by taking out the brain out of their kind of older, maybe like a rundown or less able bodies, and putting it into like a black body, which they deem more physically fit as a specimen. And I feel like there were so many messages in that film, including that one. And what he'd done with that film, Mr. Peel, was he highlighted that question you asked, French. He highlighted how a majority of mainstream people, media, society view the black person, in how the black person is viewed in society. And when you asked that question, I was sitting back thinking, because similar to like slavery days, where we would be entertainment, whether it would be playing music, whether it would be almost fighting amongst each other for entertainment. It's similar now because, P, I know you brought football into it, and we've got a lot of kind of black influence in football. But it's the same how we were speaking earlier about music, football, with like music, football, what else is there? Entertainment generally. But then from a business sense, are we fired? Like, are these people, is there abundance of black people, especially where we are based in the UK, being fired at us, out on our screens, being fired at us? Might be different in certain areas, certain continents. And obviously I'm gonna say something like Africa, maybe West Africa, where I've never been to West Africa, but I'm hoping, and I'm guessing you're more likely to see a lot more black prominent business people every day, whether it's advertisements, media, whatever. But over here, it just seems as if it's not fired at us as much as it is entertainers.
Definitely. To follow what you're both saying, I think, yes, we are still seeing the results of the indoctrination, by just going back to the points made earlier in regards to us just being seen as entertainers, whether that's music or sport. So that is our big pull. And I want to reiterate, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it is great, and it puts us in a position to show our other skills. For example, Stormzy, he's now doing other things in regards to book publishing. Like, that's just, he's been able to do that through being into entertainment. So there is definitely a positive that comes from it. I think, and even going back to that point, that allows us to see that the tide is changing, that there is more of an emphasis that we are able to do more things than just entertainment. I think one of the first winners of The Apprentices was a black guy, I believe.
Tim Campbell.
Was it the first guy or the second? One of the two. But
I think it was the first. I think Tim Campbell was the name.
Yes, Tim Campbell, yes, the name.
Yeah. So again, that helps with the perception of we're more than just entertainers. We are adequate businessmen, and we are adequate fill in the blank. So that answers that question for me. Anything else you want to add?
No, nothing really for myself now.
Cool. So in regards to sport and entertainment, just to kind of cap it off, he does mention that only 0.03% of high school players make it to the NBA. So that's 3 out of every 10,000 players. And he also goes on to mention more stats, including relating to the music industry, relating to Weezy, Jay, and just to name a few. So he points out that from a young man's perspective, from a young black male's perspective, their thought process could be and would be, what's wrong with shooting for the stars? If I want to be rich and powerful, why are you hating on me? What advice would you give to a younger person at this point?
At this point, it's just about, and I think it's not the age old, but it's what, if you listen to a lot of top business people, what they always say, they don't make their money from one source of income. They have multiple seeds planted and planted around. And so what I'd say, you don't just put all your eggs in one basket. Simple as that. It's as simple as that. Every person, or not every person, but most people, a lot of people, a lot of business people, entrepreneurs that a lot of people would aspire to or look up to or kind of read their backstory, you'll see a common pattern that they usually diversified. They have a portfolio of businesses or portfolio of things they've invested in or portfolio of things they've tried. Some fail, some don't. But the one thing is they don't just focus on one thing. They might have an overall focus on one direction they're going, but they might have other seeds that they've planted to feed into that focus. So that's the thing. It's about not just having one solid thing and there's no kind of fallback or option 2 or option B. Some people might say that, well, if I put all my energy into this thing because I have to make it or whatever, but you have to have other little things that you can try and going on, or you can try or have something to fall back on just in case. What if you break your leg? I know it's not right to think like that. What if? You don't know. Just have that little background thing that you can focus on, whether that's your education or whether that's something else. Whether that's, whilst I'm trying to be a footballer or basketball player, let me do a sports therapy course. Let me be the best I can be. So if it doesn't quite work out, I'm still going to be on that basketball field. I'm still going to be on that football pitch, but in a different manner. And I can still get that same feeling, that same buzz that I'm contributing towards the team's success. That's what I would say to like my child, or do you know what I mean? A family member or whoever.
Myself, I'm still not sure. So I'm just thinking about, reflecting on what Mason said. There's a part of me which would say, obviously, go for what you're passionate about, but at the same time, be very mindful of, I don't want to say money is important, right? The financial reward you will get from ultimately what is your passionate about. And then obviously as you develop into obviously what your passion is, and you become established, as Mason said, then obviously there's a huge importance in being able to diversify. But I think business and things such as being able to diversify or invest in different things, I think are things that we should be taught from a very young age. So despite the fact that you might be passionate about, let's say, playing football, you should have a knowledge and an understanding of how to invest in things, and again, things of that nature.
Great point. I think that's a great point. Similar to yourself, Pete, I probably, it's hard because the scenario that you made there, Mace, was something that I personally went through in terms of wanting to be a football player, and then I was decent enough to be getting scouted by pro teams and whatnot, but then I was always told to have a plan B, and that plan B for me was to go to university and do a sports therapy degree, which I did. But sometimes I feel like not to say I shouldn't have been concentrating on other things, but maybe if I just put so in regards to advice, I would say, all right, cool. Is this the only thing that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life? Like that, if this is truly the only thing, then by all means throw all your eggs into this basket. But also on the sideline, as Pete mentioned, is to also give that same individual, that youth, the tools to be able to invest in, whether it is stocks and bonds, or whether it is to invest in someone else that's got a business that's going on, and just to be able to teach them financial literacy. So if it gets to a point, reverted back to music, say they're trying to get in the music industry, which we know is very hard to get into. If that's truly their passion, that's the only thing that they want to do, by all means, go for it, keep going at it. But as we know, the world is run by money, so you're going to have to sustain yourself. So if that means getting yourself a part-time job so you can keep on doing your thing, booking studio time and doing whatever you need to do, then by all means do that. But I wouldn't it's hard. I wouldn't want to hinder them and say, look, you've got to have a plan B, because that almost takes part of that focus that they're trying to put into this one thing, whether it's music, whether it's sport. It kind of takes their mind off it, so they kind of juggle between the two. But I think if they've got enough additional knowledge, as I said, as P mentioned, in regards to investing, being financially literate, my advice would be to follow your passion if that's what you truly want to do.
Sorry, just in addition, the reason why I felt I couldn't answer that question probably in its entirety or even clearly is that, and I may even stutter over some of the things that I want to say, is that I was thinking about this today. Now, I don't even feel I give some of the things that I'm truly passionate about enough attention. Although I'm building towards giving it enough attention, I don't believe I give it enough attention. Things such as, and I don't even think I'm working on plan B, I'm just working on things which like are part of my makeup as to other things that I like doing as well. But as to the things that I'm passionate about and the things I ultimately want to do, I don't think I give them enough attention. So what I wouldn't want to do is to encourage, and I can't even say that makes me happy. I can't even say that makes me happy, the fact that I don't give the things that I'm passionate about enough attention. So I think it'd be very wrong of me to give that advice to someone else as to work on all this plan B thing. Don't get me wrong. Some people listening to this may say, no, that's bad advice. Plan B can go fuck itself. I'm not interested in, I'm not doing plan Bs. I'm doing plan A, because plan A is going to work. Just make sure I want to make sure I use the correct words, but make sure you, beef up's the wrong word, but make sure you beef up your plan A, because I just feel execution is half the problem with a lot of people. It's not that your idea is a bad idea, it's that the execution to which you're trying to perform is just not good enough, and it kind of like bodes to or leads to, some people, they try something once, and because they see rejection, or they see a failed attempt, they go off in a different direction. It's not that you're doing wrong. It's just that you I don't know, you need to go another way. I think it's poor advice to tell someone to have a plan B, and I do think about that quite often. I will prefer to go plan A to the age of 75, 80 years of age. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Fair enough, man.
I think we're split on this one. And I just refer back to the stat in the book, for instance, P, with the 0.03%, I think it was that French mentioned. And I just, like, I'm not trying to, if I was trying to be a basketball player, the first thing I wouldn't do would be to read that stat and be like, fuck, man, like, I ain't got a chance. But at the same time, knowing like that stat that I know now, if my child said, I want to be a basketball player, I'd say, cool, I'm gonna try and give you every avenue possible. I'm trying to get you into the best. I'm gonna take you training every week. I'm gonna play with you in the garden, blah blah blah. But at the same time, for me, just do me a favor and just, what else do you love about the whole game of basketball? I love the ref. Let's say example. I love the referees as well. Like, I just love the fact they can control the tempo of play. All right, cool. Do you know how to become a referee in basketball and that? Just like little things like that, just to make sure that they're thinking around the whole entire sport. Do you know that basketballers need accountants? Like, just stuff like that. Like, because I just feel like you have to be careful. If plan A, if you're happy that if you got to 75 and plan A didn't work, but you kept your whole life trying, fair enough, innit?
Sorry, and
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I really don't think. I think advice is personable. It depends how you take on that advice. It's how the advice is given and who it comes from. So, I think we've got different perspectives, but almost the same goal.
Sorry, just very briefly. So, like, we're speaking about passion, and then there's also talent. So you could be passionate about playing, I don't want to use football, but passionate about playing football. But if you're trash, you're trash. I don't want to say it's wasted time and effort, but essentially you are wasting time. And I think one thing he does allude to in the book is as to his talents. So yeah, he was selling drugs, but actually he had a talent in being able to, just buy and sell. So he had a talent in business. So that's the thing that he should have focused on building and developing. And obviously I know he touches on the the school educational system and how it wasn't necessarily maybe catered for him in regards to some of his skill sets. And had that been the case, maybe his life would have turned out a little bit different at that stage.
And just to round that point off before we move on to the next chapter, he does say the ability to dream and bring that dream into reality is a trait of a high aspirational IQ. So moving on to chapter 3 now, that is greatness, dominance, and killer instinct, stages 1 to 4, which is perspective, passion, talent, and work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think everyone wants greatness?
Say that again, do you believe?
Does everyone want greatness?
No. Or no, they may do, but I'm very aware they're not willing to put the work in, so I'm quite comfortable with that. Actually, no, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. I mean, as someone who's competing for greatness, I'm very aware. People want greatness, but they're not willing to put the work in.
Similar to P, no. For different reasons, I say no. I just think some people are content. They don't really want greatness. They're quite content with just having something, if that makes sense. Getting to a point and just saying, you know what, I'm all right with this. Like, I don't want to be the best in my field. I'm just, do you know what I mean? I'm comfortable, whatever. Don't want the stress, pressure, whatever it is. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, similar. I couldn't say it better. I think everyone would like to have greatness, but not everyone is willing to put in the work to be great. So they'll settle for not being so, which is fine. That's okay. There's no judgment here. But yeah, there's not really much for me to add to the points that you guys both made.
Do you know
what would you both say greatness is, or greatness means? Do you think it means something it means something different to each individual person, or do you think there's a collective or collaborative meaning?
I think greatness it's almost judged by your peers on what you do, the impact that you have. Like, you can be a great author, you can be a great artist, you can be a great singer, but the only way we're going to know you're great, I would say, is because of the impact you've had on society or those around you, whether it's your peers, whether that's literally the impact that you've had on your surroundings. That's what I believe greatness is.
Sorry, I was going to add to that, but so what was the original question? Because I got thrown off.
Whether or not greatness can be defined by the individual, it's defined by each individual, or whether you can summarize greatness as a collective term or collaborative term that overarches over everyone. Sorry,
what was the difference between? Because there was a sub question, but I don't know if that was the initial question.
That wasn't the original question, because when you just made that last point, then you can say that as a collective, the Roman Empire was great, but not everyone in the Roman Empire was great, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So what was the original question?
I forgot, but I just remember. I remember it was something in relation to whether is greatness something that say I might see greatness as something different to French, and French might see greatness something to you, or does greatness mean something that we can all say that's greatness? We can point to
that wasn't it. No, the question was, do you?
What's that?
No, French art. Do we all aspire to greatness?
Oh, you're talking about French. I thought you were talking about the sub-question.
No.
All right, apologies.
Sorry, no. Do we all aspire to greatness? And I know I answered it originally in saying that, yeah, we do, but then obviously some people settle for X, Y, Z. And that's it. Mason, you went on to talk about, no. So we were talking about plan A and plan B to begin with. So, no, I'm talking about what we're talking about. Yeah, if you allow me to finish, maybe you understand.
All right, cool.
So I'm going back into chapter 2. So I mean, at the back end of chapter 2, we're talking about people having a plan A and a plan B. Personally, what happens? I think people have a plan A, all right, in regards to greatness and what they're passionate about, and then people just settle for plan B. So, for example, you might aspire to, I don't want to use football again, but yeah, okay, we'll use football, all right, become a footballer. And then ultimately you realize you don't have the hunger, the passion, and determination to become a footballer, and you settle in some cases for something which keeps you in the industry. I'm not saying that's the case in all circumstances, but
I could still be great in that plan B though.
no, I don't deny that in any way, shape, or form. And in some cases, that actually might be your calling. But what I'm saying is, but not everybody can be great in that. So like, some people, I think Mason gave a good example. I know, but I just think some people settle. Like, okay, I'm not good at that, but what I'm going to do this.
Go on, Mace.
No, I want to move on because otherwise I know if I say something, it's going to come back.
Yeah, all right, cool.
Okay, and just before we go to chapter 4, just to wrap up what I was just saying, and he mentioned it himself. He says, nothing worth having comes easy. Success is a process that takes time. Great work is the invisible engine of human progress.